here's what people are talking about.
Get that son of a bitch off the field.
The Cardinals decided to link arms in unity, making a statement against President Trump's swipe at the NFL.
Coming into the game tonight, the Cardinals and the Cowboys are the only two teams in the NFL who have never had a player sit, kneel, or lock arms before a game during the national anthem.
And good morning. Welcome to Sunday Square Off. I'm Kevin Kennedy in for Bram Resnick. Boy, do we have a packed show for you today. Our three big topics: to sit or stand, what the president wants, what NFL players are doing, and how some fans are reacting. Arizona kids in crisis. As more and more teachers leave the classroom, the void in our schools is massive. What needs to be done to make sure our kids get the education they deserve? And race relations with MCSO. 10 years after an audit showed Hispanics were more likely to be pulled over by deputies. Has anything been done? A hearing took place this week. We'll have the details. But we begin today with the game. Several NFL teams set to kick off in less than about 2 hours. All eyes this weekend, just like last weekend, will be on the sidelines during the national anthem. We will soon see if the political feud between the most powerful man in the world and the most powerful sport in the U.S. continues to be showcased. The divide between the NFL and the President of the United States seems to get bigger by the tweet. As everyone knows by now, the president called for NFL owners to fire or cut any player that doesn't stand for the national anthem. That was followed by NFL players and entire teams either kneeling, locking arms, or just not showing up for the national anthem last weekend. Almost minutes after the game started, football fans and Americans on both sides of this debate sounded off, and in some cases, they expressed their feelings with fire.
I've been a Giants season ticket holder for many, many years. Been going since the early 80s. I can't go anymore. My apologies to the Mara family and to the Giants and all the respectful NFL players who still respect the flag and our country. I'm burning my tickets.
As a native Pittsburgher, I can say with absolute certainty that the Pittsburgh Steelers should be ashamed of themselves for not standing during the national anthem. My grandfather, also a native Pittsburgher, fought for our flag in World War II and would be rolling in his grave.
Jay Taylor played 7 years in the NFL. The former Cardinals also comes from a military family, his uncles and cousins serving, his brother a police officer. Here's what he had to say about the protest by some NFL players.
I think so many times people are to the point they're just fed up, not just with athletes, with entertainers as well. You know, when I turn on a game, I'm turning on a game to watch a game. I'm not turning on a game to hear politics. If they want news, they turn to news. They're coming to be entertained, not to be preached at or talked to about their political views.
Carolina, several players from the New Orleans Saints sat during the national anthem. One of them is Valley native Cameron Jordan. I caught up with his father, Steve, in London earlier this week.
These athletes are not being disrespectful. They're not hating on the flag. They're not hating on the country. They're saying that we're doing something to raise awareness. Cam, this offseason, went and did a USO trip over in Europe. He did it for no other reason than I respect our military. I love what they do, and I want to give back.
Tillman, the widow of former Arizona Cardinals and Army Ranger Pat Tillman, also sounding off. She released a statement that read in part, "As a football player and soldier, Pat inspires countless Americans to unify. Pat's service, along with that of every man and woman's service, should never be politicized in a way that divides us. The very action of self-expression and freedom to speak from one's heart, no matter those views, is what Pat and so many other Americans have given their lives for, even if they don't always agree with those views." And then there's this guy, 97-year-old World War II veteran John Middlemas. His grandson posting this picture with the hashtag Take a Knee. Middlemas saying those kids have every right to protest. Joining me now in studio to discuss this topic is former NFL player Damian Anderson, retired Navy Lieutenant Commander Robin Anderson, and marketing and sports management expert Ray Artigue. Thank you all for joining me. Damon, let's go ahead and just start with you. Your understanding of what's going on, why are these players doing it, and has the message become a little bit muddled?
Absolutely, Kevin. And Robin, first off, I just want to thank you for your service. And I think I speak for a lot of the players, both past and present. I think the narrative has been misconstrued a bit. I think that when Colin initially took that knee, back in August in 2016, it was more so about police injustice and social injustice. And through the president's comments, a bit has been almost to play sides, a situation where it's veterans versus NFL players, and that is not the case. I mean, the NFL stands up for issues like breast cancer awareness. They stand up for domestic violence, and I think that that's what these players are trying to do, come together in solidarity, use their platform to educate and create awareness.
30 years, Robin, you served in the military. When I'm assuming the national anthem is very emotional, the flag is very emotional for you. When you turn on a game on Sunday and you see players taking a knee or not showing up for the national anthem, I guess just your initial reaction is what?
Well, I'd like to say that not only am I a 30-year veteran, but my son was a 6-year Navy SEAL and passed away on Veterans Day 2012 from combat-related injuries. So the American flag means a lot to me. He wore it on his uniform in combat in Ramadi in 2006, 2007 during horrific combat, and his coffin was draped with that American flag. So when I hear the national anthem and I see the American flag waving, it's very emotional to me. Coincidentally, this Sunday was Gold Star Mother's Day. And a Gold Star mother is a mother who has lost their child in the service of their country. So it was a little bit of a sensitive day to begin with, but to turn on the TV and watch football, which I love. My son Rob played Pop Warner, high school, college football. I love the game. And to see and hear the national anthem and see players kneeling, it was heartbreaking. Maria, I'm going to get to you in a second. Damian, let me go back to you real quick. If you were in a locker room right now, what would you be doing?
I don't know. I think that I would have a discussion about collectively. I think that it's important to let the word get out that it's not about disrespecting veterans and individuals such as Robin and her family. It's about focusing on the message at hand, and which is to combat or create awareness to stop social injustices. And I think that whatever effort the team would come upon, I think that the Cardinals and the Cowboys did a great job of showing that solidarity that they did. They both locked arms and stood for the national anthem, and the Cowboys took a knee before it, and showing to acknowledge the social injustice, but also respecting the flag. And I don't think that there's necessarily a right time or a right way to go about it. I completely understand the respect that individuals have for the flag. Myself as an American, and I think that they have all fought for the freedoms that we have. And I think Marie Tillman brought up a great point, as well as Robin's son. They fought for our freedoms, to have that ability. And I don't think that anyone, I think, as I said, with the president's comments, the message has been misconstrued a bit, and it's not about disrespecting veterans. And I think that maybe getting some of that feedback, having a healthy discourse that all can find the best way to resolve that rather than create dissension amongst both groups.
So, Ray, you're the marketing expert. If you had the voice of the players and could say, look, it appears the kind of the message has maybe been lost, what would you tell them to do? What should they be doing? Well,
it's hard to say there's any one best way. What Colin Kaepernick did, will not score very high marks for subtlety. And as we've seen now, it's become a very powerful and boisterous message, made so when the President of the United States jumps into the dialogue. This was a sports story primarily until the President got involved, and now, of course, it's a national and it's an international story. And I think the players, to your question, need to understand that when they take a stance, certainly that's their right. It comes with a certain amount of risk. Today, Colin Kaepernick is unemployed. Now that may change, and public opinion may actually be swayed relative to what we're seeing take place with the fans and general public opinion. But he certainly has paid some price for the stance that he originally took.
Robin, let me ask you a question. You heard Steve Jordan, Cameron Jordan's father, kind of talk a little bit about what his son did in terms of going and doing a USO tour. Now, I understand that he was also one of the New Orleans Saints that sat, but knowing his I guess, passion, if you will, for the military in regards to, going on a USO tour, does that change, I guess, a little bit of kind of your thought when it comes to some of these players, knowing what they're doing, even though their actions may be, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, maybe a little bit insensitive or hurtful towards you as a veteran?
I certainly support their right to protest. And I certainly understand that we have a lot of divisiveness in our country today. I believe that there was a better way. I think it was the wrong time. I think it was the wrong place. And I think that there are so many other options that could have been done to get that message out.
Damian, what do you think the players need to do to kind of get back on point?
I think it's communication on both sides, understanding from individuals such as Robin that it may be insensitive, but I think that was why it was used as that tool, as Mark said, to create that awareness and be such make an impactful statement that people would be talking about. I mean, if you look at the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City, raising the black fist in protest to unjust similar circumstances, here we sit in 2017. So I think it's clearly about communication on both sides and coming together and resolving the issues, understanding that it may be offensive to some people, and understanding that there's some issues that need to be resolved. I mean, we live in a great country. We live in a country of freedom where people can express how they feel, but I think the focus needs to be on that. Focus needs to be understood that we are not perfect, and there are some ways that we can improve upon. And although that there may be protests, that these protests may be, as you mentioned, may be offensive to some people, and they will come with some criticism. But at the same time, communication definitely needs to be had on both sides to understand how both views and how both sides can be impacted.
Real quick.
Damian makes a good point. This has been going on for a very long time, and whether it was Muhammad Ali resisting the draft and the statement he made about the Vietnam War. You mentioned the 1968 Olympics. In 1980, we didn't even go out of protest over Russian aggression. So the combination of politics and social issues against the backdrop of sport has always been a combustible mix and has brought issues into the public light in a big way.
Ray, Robin, Damian, thank you all very much for joining me this morning. I sincerely appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And Robin, like Damian said, thank you so much for your service.
Thank you so much.
Still ahead on 12 News Sunday Square Off. MCSO has been under new direction since January, but is enough being done to ensure deputies are not racially profiling? And what can be done about Arizona teachers leaving their jobs in bunches? The new numbers that are opening a lot of eyes. Next on Sunday Square Off.